Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We're going to give it a couple more minutes to let a few people filter on, and then we'll go ahead and introduce the topics. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Hello and good morning, everyone. This is Joanne Ponchana. I'm the Senior Program Manager for PG&E and focusing on the Whole House Energy Upgrade California program. And I'm really excited to have you all on the phone today to introduce some great opportunities. Specifically today, we're going to talk about regional incentives available in addition to the existing PG&E rebates. While there are various partner and local government organizations providing incentives throughout the PG&E service territory, today we're really going to focus on information for contractors who are working in the ABAG region, which is Alameda, Contra Costa, Marin, Napa, San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, Solano, and Sonoma counties. So today we're going to start with a brief presentation and then provide plenty of time at the end for questions. Today we have presenting Jonathan Sternin with the BKI, and BKI is managing the ABAG regional incentive programs. We also have Ellie Fiore with MIG, and MIG is working on the statewide and regional marketing and community outreach. So these two entities, in addition to PG&E, Build It Green, who's our program implementer, are all working together to collaborate to try to make this statewide program, regional program, a success. I'm really excited for the information they have to share with us today to help you, the contractors, drive even more participation in the program and help the customers be able to participate as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Jonathan.
Yeah, sounds like we're having some audio trouble. We'll see if we can resolve that.
Jonathan, your phone might be muted.
I am. Anyone can hear me now?
We can hear you now.
All right, great. Thank you. I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that, everyone. Technology. Okay, so let's talk. All right, so my name is Jonathan Sternin. I'm with BKI, as Joanne said. And BKI is the lead contractor for the Retrofit Bay Area program. And for those of you who haven't heard the Retrofit Bay Area term, that's basically the umbrella program for all of the local government energy upgrade programs throughout the Bay Area. So it's all of the counties except for Napa County within the Bay Area. I personally am responsible for the administration of the regional incentives. And so we thought we'd take this opportunity today to do a couple things. First is really get the record straight. We know there's been a lot of confusion out there. We basically had very little time to get this program started and get the message out, and so we definitely didn't get things as tight as we want. And so we really wanted to take the opportunity now to say, here's what's going on with the program, here are the requirements, here's the timing on it, here's what you have to do, so you know what you need to know when you're talking with your clients in terms of setting expectations and talking about timing and things like that. So we want to make sure to get the record straight. And then, of course, we want to take most of the time to answer any any questions that you would have. And so we're hoping that the majority of this session will be a Q&A. So I've got a lot of information, but I will plow through it as quickly as I can and hopefully still make it understandable. I do want to say that both we really recognize that this is a complex and confusing program. We had a lot of local incentives already, and then we built this regional incentive on top of that, and we really didn't have much time to design it, and we really didn't have much time to get it out there in the market. And so, I want to go ahead and just say we apologize for any bumps in the road that have occurred so far, and hopefully, this webinar will really start to get things clear. And then, of course, we're planning to support you as much as we possibly can in the future. So today we're just going to be talking only about the regional incentives. We're not going to be talking about any specific local incentives except as maybe they interact with the regional incentives. So if you have any questions on specific local incentives, whether it's the Alameda counties or Sonoma counties or what have you, excuse me, not Sonoma, San Mateo counties, please direct those questions to those county administrators. They're the ones who will kind of remain your point of contact for most inquiries. We're really just talking about the regional incentives right now. I wanted to say thanks to both PG&E and Build It Green. They've been really great partners in helping to get the word out about the regional incentives, and they're co-sponsoring this webinar, for example, and sending out information. And so I really want to say thanks to them in particular. And we're working with them both on the outreach side as well as the administrative side to make sure that this flows as cleanly as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rattle through about 10 slides or so explaining the program, and then we'll do the Q&A. As questions come up, go ahead and type them in the chat box over on the right. You don't have to wait till the Q&A session to do that, but I won't generally be answering questions ahead of the Q&A session because we really do want to take the time for that. So go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So let's just start with the basics. What are the incentives? We have up to $300 for standalone assessments, or assessments in general, basically. We have up to $1,000 for a basic package job, and we have up to $2,000 for advanced package jobs. Note that assessment incentives are additive with the project incentives. And when I say project incentives, I just want to make sure that I'm clear about this. When I say project, I mean a basic job or an advanced job. So anything where you're doing actual, improvements to the home. So since assessment incentives are additive with project incentives, that actually means that by and large an advanced job would actually get you $2,300, not just $2,000. Total incentives can't exceed the total cost to the homeowner, and that really mostly applies around the assessments depending, if you're offering a $99 assessment as a special, we're not going to give them $300. And just a piece around applying for assessments versus the advanced jobs. If you're doing an advanced job, just apply for the advanced job. Don't apply once for the assessment and then once for the advanced job. That is more paperwork for you. It doesn't make any sense. We'll give you that. We'll give the homeowner that $2,300, but you don't have to apply for it twice. Another way of thinking about it is only apply for the standalone assessment incentive if you are sure the homeowner isn't going to do the work. So if you do the test-in and then the homeowner says, you know what, I'm not going to move forward with this. I'm just going to you just go ahead and apply for the standalone assessment, and at that point we'll give you the $300. If in the future they decide to continue with work, we have a limited time on this, but if they do, in the next couple weeks decide to continue with work, you can then apply separately. But just for your, just for simplicity, you apply for an advanced job. If you're doing advanced job, we'll give you $2,300. So next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about the program design. As you know, we kind of started with fairly complex program. Each of the counties, many of the counties have local incentive programs, and those counties, it's actually 7 of the 8 counties that we're talking about, had some sort of local incentive program. And each county's incentives are, of course, different. So basically what we needed to do was we needed to get these local incentives, which are still existing. They're still out there. I mean, Contra Costa still has their incentive. Marin still has their incentive. We needed to find a way to kind of keep these programs and then add the regional incentive on top of it in a relatively simple way, given the overall complexity of this. So what we decided to do was we decided to build the regional program off any local programs. So the question that you should really be asking yourself is, does the county that you're working in have local project incentives? And again, project meaning advanced or basic incentives. If yes, then the regional program is essentially the local program. What that means is you will apply through the local incentive process, whatever that local incentive process is. And there's one application for you. It's the local incentive application. There's no special regional incentive application. And there's one point of contact, which is the county. So say you are applying in San Mateo County. San Mateo County offers a countywide PG&E match. So you're doing a job that's 20% savings. They'll give you $2,000. You apply through San Mateo's process. Once San Mateo has approved that incentive, they'll talk to us on the back end, and we'll just add on that $2,300, just like that. There's nothing else that you have to do. So basically, that was kind of what we thought was the simplest way for this to work. What that does mean is that the regional program looks different in every county. It basically matches the local program. So, a project that may fly in one county may not qualify in another county, and you just need to be responsive to the local programs. There's not a whole lot of additional regional pieces going on. So that being said, if you can go to the next slide, please. This is really just a repeat of what I said, but I just really want to make this clear. In a county that has local project incentives, apply through the local program. You've automatically applied for the regional program. If it's approved for the local program, it's automatically approved for the regional program. It's pretty much that easy. And the 5 counties that we're talking about that this applies in is Alameda, Contra Costa, Marin, San Francisco, and San Mateo. So you might be asking yourself at this point, well, where are all the local applications? Where are all the local requirements? We're not going to talk about that directly here. If you've been working in these counties, you probably already know what that is, but you probably already know who to call and all of those things. But if you don't, we're creating a new portal for you guys, and this is honestly a long time coming. We've been wanting to do this for a while, and it's coming in a little late, but we're glad it's coming out. Next week, there will be a contractor portal, and it will be contractors.abag.ca.gov. It's going to have information on all local and all regional incentives throughout the Bay Area that are related to Energy Upgrade California. So it's going to have, what submission requirements are there, how much is the incentive, who do you call, where do you have to submit it, what are the program websites, as well as links to all the documents. So we think that'll be a really, really great resource for you, and we're looking forward to rolling that out next week. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So then, of course, what if there are no local project incentives? What if you're working in Sonoma County or Santa Clara County or Solano County where there are no project incentives? We've created a regional application. It's pretty basic. It's pretty simple. It's, some really basic project information or property information, and then a couple signatures, and that's it. You should have already received this from your county representative. So if you're working in Sonoma County, Chris Broad over here at BKI has been working with the contractors there to get the application out. Santa Clara, hopefully you've been working with Juan and all of them. If you have not received that, I'm more than happy to send you that regional application. Just, send me an email, and I'll give you our email shortly. And also, of course, the regional application will be available on the portal. I do just want to make, a special case so you're aware of this. Santa Clara County, as you know, has pretty robust assessment incentives. And if you're applying for an assessment incentive in the county, we'll work with the county to kind of transfer that into a regional project application if it's appropriate. But you can just go ahead and be proactive and apply for both the test-in assessment incentive to Santa Clara County, as well as use the regional application to apply with us. So only in Santa Clara County is there a potential for 2 applications. But, that's not hard and fast, and certainly feel free to contact us if, that's a problem and we can find a way to work around it. So next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk about eligibility. All of the local programs as well as the regional program are built off of the PG&E Whole House program. So essentially, if your project qualifies for the PG&E program, then it qualifies for the regional incentives. And in fact, in most cases, any project needs to go through the PG&E program to go through any local or regional program. The one exception is San Francisco has a multifamily, a 2 to 4 unit program. So that's the one exception. But beyond that, pretty much anything goes through the PG&E program. It also, of course, needs to be in any of the 8 counties we've already indicated. So if you're working in Napa County, the regional incentives don't apply because they are not part of Retrofit Bay Area. A couple of differences between the PG&E program and ours is the first bullet there, the standalone assessments. This is actually the same as the PG&E program, but we have separate assessment-only incentives, which PG&E obviously does not have. That being said, it just needs to meet the BPI standards. So you have to do an energy model, an Energy Pro. You can't just do a quick walkthrough of the home and say, okay, we've done the assessment, and then apply for the regional incentive. We're not going to give you an incentive for that. It's got to be at the same BPI standards. The other requirement that is additional is the historic preservation. This is something that's required by federal law, required by the funder, and actually the stimulus funds that we got. Each county is kind of interpreting this differently, but the general advice is that if you're working in buildings that are older than 45 years, so basically 1967 at this point, avoid window replacement, avoid door replacement, avoid ground disturbance, basically anything that sort of affects the outside of the building. Most of the projects aren't doing these things, so it's probably not a problem. It hopefully will never be an issue at all, but just general advice is to avoid those things if possible. If a client comes in there and says, I want to do windows and their building is 1960 or earlier, then basically you can change the JRT so we don't know that was done, because there's a really onerous process that we'd have to go through to qualify you for that, and none of us want that. We want to make this easy. So next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk about timeline. This is a limited time program. There's no other way of saying it. Time is very, very short on this. We're really seeing this as, new signups happen pretty much in November and December, and maybe with a spillover to January. But pretty much it's going on now, and it's going to stop soon. So just be aware that this isn't something that you should necessarily be promising to your clients, coming January. That said, I'll give you some specifics. We have the start date. This is work completed after October 12th, 2011. What we mean by work completed is for assessments, it's the date of the assessment. We pull the date of the assessment either off an assessment report or the invoice. So there's some leeway there, but basically that's where we're pulling the date of assessment. And then for the upgrades, it is the date that is indicated on the PG&E rebate approval notice, because that's basically when we said, okay, this job is completely done. It's gone through all the QA. This is a completed job. So that is the date that we are referencing. In terms of the deadline, so this is the good news and bad news scenario. The bad news is that the CEC mandated deadline for us to spend our money is February 15th. This is our current deadline right now. I know there's been a lot of dates out there, including dates that were said by myself that are different. But this is the deadline. We need to have spent our money by February 15th before it all goes away. That is currently what's there. So I guess I want to get right to the good news. The good news is this, is that we're working with CEC to extend that deadline. We're very hopeful that we'll be able to push it back, but we need to tell you right now that this is the current state of things, and so you need to kind of plan accordingly. And I'll get a little bit into that in a second. But what does it mean that we need to spend all of our funds by February 15th? Basically, from your perspective, everything needs to go through the PG&E and the local government process by February 15th. So this clearly has implications for your timing in terms of getting new clients on and when you can get assessments and projects completed, and timing in terms of the PG&E review. So definitely this does not create a lot of leeway, this deadline, and we're very, very aware of it, and we need you to be aware of it too, because none of us want to set expectations for the homeowner that we can't meet. That's not going to work for any of us, and so just know that we're very aware of this. And like I said, the good news is that we're working on an extension. We'll let you know as soon as that extension comes through. We're really hopeful that it will. CEC is pretty responsive to this, and there's no kind of legal things that are standing in the way. It's just their decision, basically. And I will be personally contacting all contractors, and I will also have PG&E contact all contractors to make sure that the word gets out as soon as we find out if there is an extension on this deadline. So that's the bad news, good news scenario. Next slide, please. So with the situation as it is, the best advice that we can give is use your best judgment. You know your capacity right now. We don't know it. We don't know if it's taking you 1 week or 2 months to schedule an assessment with a new lead. That's not something that we're aware of, but you know your capacity right now. You know your experience with the PG&E program review process. Use your best judgment when you set your client's expectations. And really, in general, be careful not to promise anything to homeowners that you can't deliver. So if you don't think you can get through the process and out of the other end of the PG&E program and into the local government program by roughly February 8th or February 10th, then don't promise this. I mean, that's my recommendation. As we all know, it's way better to underpromise and overdeliver. And if you aren't saying this to the homeowners, then we can, if we do get that deadline extension, then great, they get $2,300 extra dollars. That's the situation we want to be in, right? It does. I understand it makes it challenging for sales. We really are sensitive to all of these issues. At this point, we're doing everything we can to get that deadline extended. But just use your best judgment when you're talking with the homeowners, and we're using our best judgment with the marketing, and Ellie will tell you a little bit more about that. Okay, so we're getting close to half an hour, so I will move forward quickly. Can you go next slide, please? So just a few extra things. Rebates are first come, first serve. We'll let you know when we're starting to run out of funds. We'll work through the counties. We'll contact you directly. We will definitely notify you when funds are running low. There's currently a 60-day timeout, so if you apply and nothing happens for 60 days, then projects will time out. We will actually contact you, or the counties will contact you at 45 days to make sure the project is still live, in which case we can potentially do a 30-day extension. So we're not trying to, push anyone out who has a live project, but we just need to make sure that there are no dead projects that are reserving funds. And then, of course, just, general liability issues. Reservation doesn't guarantee funds. Eligibility is based upon the final installed scope of work, not on what you say you're going to do prior to the job. Next slide, please. Okay, so moving forward quickly, regional incentives. This is, how do these regional incentives interact with local incentives, with other incentives that are out there? Basically, they can be combined. They're additive. Pretty much across the board. There's one exception, which is the Santa Clara County Assessment Incentive. They basically said we either want people to do our incentive or the regional assessment incentive. So you cannot apply for the assessment incentive both at Santa Clara County and at the regional level. But you can definitely apply for the project incentive. So if you apply for Santa Clara County Assessment Incentive, you can still get an advanced package incentive from the region, just not another assessment incentive. And in most cases, obviously, people, since they have much higher incentives, would probably go with Santa Clara, I'd be willing to bet. But other than that, beyond the qualification that total incentives can't exceed total project costs, all of these are additive. You basically just have to make sure that the job meets the standards of all the various programs. So if we're talking about the HERS 2 programs, for example, they've got to get a HERS 2 rating. but we don't require HERS 2 rating, but obviously those programs do. So pretty much across the board, they're additive up to total project costs. Okay, next, please. So what are the submission requirements? You're generating the majority of these documents for the PG&E program. We didn't want to add a whole lot of extra burden to you. Basically, for assessments, the top 3 are required: the application, a W-9, which is required by federal law as well as by many of the local governments, and an invoice. And so that's basically what we need for assessments, not a whole lot. Then for the actual program, for the projects, we need the additional JRT, obviously the PG&E approval notice to show that it went through the PG&E program, and some indication that you've pulled a permit, whether it's a permit number or a copy of the permit. There are potential other requirements that local programs may have, and applications vary by county, but by and large, you are generating the majority of these things for the PG&E program in general. Okay, next slide. Okay, and so just last but not least, on my piece, contractors.abag.ca.gov will have hopefully everything you need, or at least the large majority of what you need. And that will be up next week. We'll get you specific timing on that, but we will announce that far and wide when it's up. Local incentives, if you have questions about local incentives, contact the county. We are not dealing with that directly. And if you have questions about regional incentives, you can definitely contact the county. You can also contact me directly. And here is my phone number. And the EU rebates at bki.com doesn't go to me directly, but I will definitely be aware of that. So I will pass it off to Ellie with that. And just again, if you have questions, type them in, and we will go through them during the Q&A session. Thanks.
Okay, great. Next slide, please. Okay, so just briefly on the marketing front, ABAG allocated some money that had been going but was not being used for their call center to do one last marketing push from now through March of 2012. And there are 3 big pieces of that effort. One is we're updating the marketing materials with this starburst that you see in front of you, just to give folks a sense of the urgency and to catch their attention and let them know that there's additional funds, but that they are limited and they need to act now. The second big piece of that is a new broadcast ad buy, and so we have a 30-second energy upgrade spot that began running on KTVU this Monday, and that'll go through February. And then KTVU is also in the process of organizing and hopefully will administer a contest in January of next year that will also garner some additional attention for the program. So more to come on that. And then the third piece is that we're doing another online ad buy. So we're placing some Google ads, some Google AdWords, and then some online ads will appear in local media sites. Next slide, please. And so in regards to the timing of this campaign, we want to be sensitive to the timing issues that Jonathan just presented. So for our online campaign that begins next week, we are going to be promoting the additional regional rebates. And then we are already planning to go dark over the holidays because that's such a difficult time to do marketing for obvious reasons. And then we'll revisit in January whether we want to promote these additional regional rebates at all, or whether we'll revert to our old advertising. And that will depend on whether the CEC extends the program deadline, but we want to just be clear about the fact that we are, on our end, sensitive to the timing issues and working to manage expectations from clients. So we're not going to promote a program if we realize that the timeline is going to be impossible. So we'll update you on that in January. I think that's it for me.
Okay. So we can get, and you can go to the next slide now, please. So yeah, so now we're in the Q&A, and the rest of the time we really want to make sure that we are able to answer your questions. And I have about 6 questions here. If you have other questions, please type them in the chat box, and I will see them. So the first question is, if we were already certified by historic preservation through the CHF loan process for Windows, can we submit that OK to qualify for the ABAG rebate? Yeah, go ahead and do that. We'll have to kind of take that on a case-by-case. You know, in general, we're sort of trying to set a rule of, don't do this, but if you've gone through the state process, then that will qualify. And, more power to you, I guess. But again, that's sort of case by case. So submit that to us, and we'll take a look, and we'll determine if that meets our needs. Ben mentioned that the PG&E approval notices are not dated. That's correct. It's not in the message body. The only date is in the email date stamp. Yes. So please just forward us that information. There are other indications as well, but we're aware that it is the date stamp. So we will see that. Just go ahead and forward that over to us. We have a couple questions on the extension. So I don't want to confuse folks. So I don't want to mention too many dates, but let's put it this way. Our funds, without a doubt, the grant ends the end of March. So the latest the jobs could get done would be roughly the middle of March. So the extension will not be for more than a month, essentially. We're hopeful that we'll be able to get up to that, and that's frankly what we're asking for. But it's not going to be more than a month. So at most, it'll give you a couple more weeks. And like I said, this program is really meant to be kind of December, January at most. Okay. Does the assessment mean date of test out? No. You could do one for test out, but if you're applying for an assessment rebate for a test out, then assuming you did an advanced package rebate, then you would just apply for the advanced package, I expect. And general assessment incentives are for test-ins or standalone assessments. We have a question, at what stage of the job do we apply for the regional rebate? It's basically linked to the local rebate. So there are some counties that require reservations ahead of time, and there are some counties that you just go ahead and apply after the project has already happened. So if you're applying for a local rebate or a regional rebate through a local rebate, then it's whatever the local government requires. That being said, if you're applying directly for a regional rebate, we do ask that there's a reservation request, and you would essentially apply after you've done the test-in and gotten the homeowner to sign, on the dotted line with the contract. We would not turn away, at the regional level, we wouldn't turn away any incentives that are just applied for once all the work is done and once PG&E has approved the job. So, we're trying to get this money out the door. We want to make it as easy for you. So, we certainly recommend a reservation request. It makes a big difference, and money's going pretty fast at this point. So we encourage a reservation request at the regional level, but it's not required. And and like I said, with the local, if you're applying through a county that has local incentives, you need to follow their process. Will a home qualify for any incentive that has PG&E electric, but due to geographic limitation of gas lines uses propane? Yes, it will qualify as long as it goes through the PG&E program and gets the approval notice. We're not worried about what the rebate that comes from PG&E is, but it does just have to go through the PG&E QA. That's really the big part of that.
Jonathan, before you keep going, this is Joanne from PG&E. If it has propane appliances, it wouldn't qualify for the PG&E.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying that. That's good. So if it doesn't qualify for PG&E program, it won't qualify for us. If it does qualify for PG&E program, it will qualify for us. So same eligibility requirements. Thanks, John. Just a reminder, Chris wanted me to remind you guys this is all first come, first serve. So we might actually be reserved way before the deadline. So this is very much act now. And as I said, we will keep you guys posted as best we can, both through the counties and probably directly through me when we are starting to run low of funds, because we obviously don't want you setting expectations for homeowners that you can't meet. So, okay, let's see what it says. If customer paid the contractor in full for their home performance test and received a partial testing rebate from their city or county, can we apply for the customer to get reimbursed for the remaining amount? It depends upon the date of the assessment. So basically, if an assessment is done prior to October 12th, then The answer is no. If the assessment was done after October 12th, then you can go ahead and apply. That being said, if if you applied for a county assessment incentive, since you've basically gone through the local program, we should already know about it. And so we should have already added the regional incentive on top of that. So Tom, if you have questions, you can call me directly. I'm more than happy to talk about the specific project and see if we have that there. Is February 15th deadline only for the ABAG incentives, also for the county incentives? It is for all incentives. That is, thank you very much for pointing that out. It is for all incentives. Both the regional and the local incentives are coming from one pot, and this is our State Energy Program fund, and basically currently CEC is saying that that pot goes away if we don't spend the money by February 15th, which of course with the deadline extension that we are trying very hard to get. Will this webinar be available on the portal when it launches? I'm planning on sending it out. Planning on putting it on the portal, but I think that's a great suggestion, so we will go ahead and see if we can get it up on the portal. Okay.
And Jonathan, this is Joanne from PG&E again. It will be posted on the Build a Green utility.org portal as well.
Great, thank you. Was it announced that all new applications will have rebates paid directly to homeowner and no longer to contractor? Yeah, so we cannot pay the regional incentives to the contractor. That was a determination that was done pretty high. But there are some local incentives that are still going to the contractor. So I know, for example, Santa Clara County pays their incentives directly to the contractor and has contractor service agreements. That's still going to happen. So the local process is still the local process, but all regional rebates need to go directly to the homeowner. How much funds are currently available? We have roughly $2 million, a little bit less than $2 million that are currently available. At this point, we're about maybe 1/3 reserved, a little more than that. So it's going pretty quickly, and it's only been a few weeks. So just know that. But we have, you know, 1.7 million roughly. So I understand a reservation request can be submitted after receiving energy upgrade notification to proceed, but prior to work being complete. Yes, that is correct. So you would submit the reservation request essentially any time after the homeowner has signed the contract and signed the application. You know, we would definitely prefer once you have, you know, created the JRT and potentially even gotten the notice to proceed, but that's not a requirement. We have pretty low bar on reserving funds. But you know, if you do submit the JRT to us, then we can verify that the scope of work doesn't, you know, hit the historic preservation piece, and that gives you a little more assurance. But you could do it as soon as you know, you've done the testing, basically. If we think, may not, sorry, give me a second here. So it's asking, should we hedge bets and apply for a full assessment incentive instead of an assessment only? Yeah, I don't want to encourage you guys to apply for things that you don't know are going to happen. You know, that really, frankly, isn't fair to the rest of the folks, but I understand why you would do it. You know, we're not necessarily going to have ways to track that, so we're going to kind of rely on you guys to be honest and say, you know, use your best judgment. I know you want to reserve these funds, and I know you want to make sure you have this for the homeowner, and I completely understand that, but understand that there are a lot of other contractors that are trying to do that too, and we're all kind of in the same boat on this point. We want to, you know, get this market going. So I don't want to encourage you to kind of apply for something if you don't think it's going to happen. You know, at the very least, we need the homeowner's signature, and so if you're saying, well, we're going to do an advanced package incentive and the homeowner signs that, then we're thinking that the homeowner is planning to do an advanced package job. But I very much understand. Okay, so a question about Hayward. City of Hayward incentives are available until the end of April. Yes. So there are certain incentives that are available beyond the end of this term. And so, I mean, I didn't want to get too much in the weeds on this, but you have to ask the local program specifically about when they're ending. A lot of the city incentives are funded not through state energy programs, so they won't go away. So City of Hayward or City of Alameda or something like that, those will go away later. City of San Francisco has said that they're going to extend their rebates kind of through June. But as a general rule, most of the local incentives will be going away with the regional incentives. So ask your specific local contact about when their rebates terminate to be sure. But by and large, it is the February 15th date. What is a JRT? JRT is the jobs reporting template that you are using, the interim jobs reporting template that you are using for the PG&E program. And my understanding is that is still widely being used. Is that correct, Joanne?
Sorry, your question is about the JRT?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically, that's just a reference to the online forms that you have to fill out to get the assessment. So it's not necessarily a JRT as it was during the pilot in some of the earlier stages, where it's an Excel-based template. It's more of a online data entry at this point.
And
that can be exported to provide for these incentives.
Yeah, and to be clear, the JRT is something that we really want to have. If it ever went away in the PG&E program, it wouldn't be essential. But if you're not filling it out, let me know, and we'll talk about this. How long does it take for the homeowner to receive payment? Well, it varies. So the local incentives and the regional incentives are cut at different times. Those checks are cut at different times. We are cutting checks every week for the regional incentives. So, we're sending, as soon as a project is approved on our end, we're sending a report to the Association of Bay Area Governments on Tuesday, and they're cutting checks on Thursday. So, hopefully within a week. I mean, if you want to be safe, you can say, 4 weeks or something like that, but it's pretty quick. For the local incentives, that varies by their own process. So I can't speak for any of the counties. Are we posting this webinar? Yes, we did mention that it will be both on the PG&E contractor portal as well as on our local, the contractors.abag.ca.gov portal. That will be, both of these will be up there. It sounds like, okay, yeah, so we just answered this question, how long does it take for the homeowner to get the regional rebate check? And then the it has a question about how long does it take for the homeowner to get the PG&E rebate. Joanne, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, sure. So the PG&E rebate, once the final application is submitted by the contractor and approved, it's about 6 to 8 weeks for the customer to receive the check.
Okay. And then we have one more question. The Sonoma, more popping up. The Sonoma County specifically, yes, they're in terms of Energy Upgrade California and these regional incentives, the only incentive that exists is this regional incentive. So that will be going away February 15th. That being said, Skype offers their HERS 2 assessment rebate, and I'm not sure what the deadline on that is. And so, yeah, apparently there's no established deadline. And so that will continue after, but that is a HERS 2 assessment. That is related to, but not directly tied to these regional incentives. Ben, I will send you the Alameda County short form for homeowners to sign. We just finished that recently, and so I will send that out. And again, remember that everything will be up on this contractors.abag.ca.gov portal, so it will be there as well. People like these programs. I like this question. Thank you. People like these programs. Any chance they will be extended in future years? That is a great question, and I can guarantee you that local governments are doing everything they can. Certainly PG&E's program goes through December 2012 at this point. And Joanne, if you want to talk a little bit about the extension of the PG&E program, that's great. As far as the local government side, our funds, run out at this level in March, but we are working with the state and we're working with the utilities and a lot of other folks to see what we can do to extend that. So I think there's a lot of intention now that we're having a lot of success on extending, whatever we can and building new services and products. But currently, the local government side of this, mostly goes away in March, and then you know, the rest will probably go through June. Pretty much is the end of the other large stimulus pot. So that's kind of where we are right now. Jen, do you want to talk a little bit about the extension of the PG&E program?
Yeah, that'd be great. I do want to emphasize that while, you know, unfortunately there is an end, at least initially in sight for the local government incentives, the PG&E rebates, which are up to $4,000, will still be available definitely through the end of December 2012, and more than likely as the program cycle gets extended through the end of 2014. So these programs are definitely around to stay and will continue to be offered to customers.
Okay, and we have one more question, which I think, getting a couple more. This is a great question. If there's a new local program, is there a chance that it could be the same across the counties? That is a big lesson learned for us, is to simplify this and make this as consistent regionally as possible. That would be a strong consideration, to say the least. Obviously, at this point, it's way too early to say what any program design would be, but that is definitely a lesson learned for us. So I think that we would definitely push in that direction. We have a question. When the city is paying for the customer's test fees, how will we submit for the testing incentive rebate for the city? That depends on what city you're talking about. I will tell you that a lot of the city incentives have been rolled up into the county incentives. So if you're talking about San Bruno, so if we're talking San Mateo County, you're talking about San Bruno, Hillsborough, or Menlo Park, those are rolled up into the San Mateo County process. So those are linked to our process. Basically, the city incentives are linked to the county incentives or linked to the regional incentives. Same thing with the majority of Alameda County incentives. So Alameda County has a lot of local city incentives that have all kind of been rolled up into one process. Pretty much all of those are connected. So if you're applying for an assessment through a city, depending on what city it is, there's a good chance that it's already linked to our process. Yeah, it's the city of San Mateo for a special energy retrofit. I'm not aware of the city of San Mateo. You want to talk to Douglas Alfaro at the County of San Mateo. He'll be able to tell you more information. I don't have a phone number off the top of my head, but you can email me and I'll go ahead and send it to you. Okay, so that's it that we have for questions. Any last questions going on? We got a thanks. I appreciate this. I really hope it's worth your while. I mean, we had a lot of information we had to get out, and we really wanted to make it clear and set expectations for you. And frankly, like I said, I apologize personally that this wasn't clear. We had minimal time and a lot of things to do, and you know, everything I try and do is watching your guys' back. I don't know if you believe that, but I really do think, well, what about the contractors? How will that work? And so we really felt we needed to get this information out there. So hopefully this clears up a lot of things. Let's see. Okay, well, that's that. So unless there are no further questions, feel free to give me a call if you have questions in general. Definitely contacting the counties as well. If you, you know, next week we'll announce the local government contractor incentive portal that will have all that information for you. So just stay tuned for that, and we'll continue to work with PG&E and Build It Green to get the word out to you. Okay, well, that is that. So thanks, everyone, and we'll go ahead and hang up right now and just give me a call if you need anything. Okay? All right, take care.